Hello, Media Critique Chic followers. This is our spin-off series where we dig into different topics within social justice and diversity from a comedy freak perspective. I'm borderline Latina, and I'm going to be taking you through this unscripted, raw experience. It has some good stuff with it too. And this is based on my experiences navigating the world professionally, personally, and the knowledge that I've acquired throughout the way. All right, let's get it. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about radical acceptance. What is that, by the way? Radical acceptance. Well, it's definitely a concept that I've learned in my training, but if you haven't attended grad school on counseling topics, most people really don't know what it is. But I would have to say, in the events that have happened in the past year that has been 2020, if there ever was a concept to know and to use and to appreciate, it is that of radical acceptance. All right, what is it? So it's a concept from therapy circles, which means accepting the reality for what it is. And when we're talking about acceptance, that doesn't mean that we think that we're okay with this experience. It's just acknowledging the reality for what it is as the first step to moving forward in healing. So why do I mention this topic right now? Why is it important? Especially given the craziness that was 2020. Well, part of that has to do with acknowledging what shittiness 2020 has been for all of us. And even going into 2021. Things have gotten a little better, but there's still a lot of crappiness in the world. And the reason I say that is important as a concept to know is that for a lot of people, myself included, as a defense mechanism, we tend to deny or push away the reality as a way to protect ourselves from the pain. And that makes total sense. I mean, if we are experiencing or about to experience an unpleasant or painful experience or emotion, we do everything we can to avoid it. It's like biologically natural. The problem is you're prolonging the sufferance by pushing it away, and worse, denying that it is. And in the instance of the horribleness of 2020, we saw that happening right away. Not to say that things have gotten significantly better in terms of denial in 2021, but when I think of denial in 2020, I think of this contradiction, this statement that we got in media and in our professional lives and even in our relationships with others, friends and family, where people at some level were able to acknowledge like, oh, a lot of things are happening right now. This doesn't feel good, right? And at some points you hear things like, it's okay not to be okay, but at the same time, we're all like, things are going okay. I get to stay home and I get to bake my avocado bread. And no shade to the wonderfulness I imagine avocado toast is, but I was very confused as to why people felt the need to be productive while transitioning from work to work at home. Why baking bread was the top of many people's list and shown throughout social media. It was as if we were trying to deny the reality of how terrible it would be to work at home in that transition for many different reasons for many people, that we decided to deny the present by making ourselves feel busy by baking bread. And now I'm not disparaging those people who use bread as a way, or baking, to release tension as a coping strategy. A lot of people find pleasure in baking. And that's not what I'm talking about. If that's something that you usually do for anxiety and helping yourself, go with it. But I also felt like there was this expectation of, well, you're at home now. And working at home means that you're basically sitting around and not doing anything. And you shouldn't feel tired for sitting around and doing anything. So that means you gotta do something. So let's bake bread. That's problematic, don't you think? I mean, we can't be forcing people to be productive 24/7 a day. And even though we're sitting at home and in front of our computers and a lot of us felt like we weren't really doing anything, we're expending a lot of energy. And so I say to that, let's acknowledge and radically accept the fact that this is a shitty situation for us, and it has continued to be that way for over a year. These are unprecedented times, y'all. And I think we can provide ourselves just a little bit of relief and just acknowledging that we're continuing to feel like shit. And I know from personal experience that I still struggle with this. There have been often times where I get up and I'm like, wow, why do I still feel drained? I should feel better by now. I mean, it's been a year or so. I mean, come on. But shit's still happening on the news, health-wise with COVID, along with all the other stuff I can talk about. And more recently, at the time of this recording, that bombshell interview with Oprah and Harry and Meghan, and the fact that people are still trying to deny those people's experiences, even though they had the courage to speak up. That's draining to watch. People denying people's experiences as they're sharing the truth. I mean, come on. But listen, y'all. I think that we can use the concept of radical acceptance, as I said, as a first step in moving forward. We have to truly admit the drain that it is taking on us. And I don't mean that just from a personal perspective. I mean from an organizational perspective. I can definitely understand that a lot of different companies and organizations now are still tasked with, needing to move on forward and to produce the product or whatever service they're giving to their customers. But I also think that from the top, organization-wide across many different fields, all different fields, that there should be continued acknowledgement of how hard it is for the workers to adjust and to go forward in this. We can't pretend, or we can't try to adapt to things as if they were pre-2020, because that's just not the way it is now. And like I said, I'm not thinking that this is purposeful, but I also know in our economy, in our culture, in our society, we have this kind of toxic, almost toxic, actually it does end up being toxic very way, where we have this toxic productivity and positivity. Despite all the things that are headed towards us, we're just going to push ourselves going forward, moving in the similar ways as if things have never happened. And that's not true. It needs to have some continued adjustments. And I think that we can practice radical acceptance with humor. I mean, that's the heart of comedy. I've heard it time and time again from many different comics to many different shows that talk about comedy, how comedy definitely comes from pain and processing those experiences, right? And comedy does not deny those experiences. Oh, no. There are many comics that definitely talk about and show themes of social justice and commentary through comedy. And I like that. I like that boldness and that truth. And so I say to y'all and to myself, let's continue on just radically accepting that this is going to be a shitty situation for a while. And that could be our first step to acknowledging that, acknowledging how we're really feeling, how we're really operating, and not feeling like we need to pretend that we're at a higher level of efficiency when we're not. We need to acknowledge how we're really functioning if we're going to be able to implement the changes personally and organizationally. And to that end, I will radically accept that challenge. This has been Borderline Latina. Until some other time.